As we are all aware, the provision of quality education has always been at the forefront of every government agenda. Whether it is military or civilian, each administration has constituted one committee or another, either on the entire education system or some aspect of it. And all the purpose is to make recommendations for improvement. However, one of the daring practices relating to major reforms in Ghana is the seemingly revolutionary mode in which they have been carried out. And you can trace this from the 1950s with Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's CPP to the National Liberation Council. The National Liberation Council in particular made some moves regarding teacher education. You will recall the Accelerated Development Program of the CPP 1952, which came with the establishment of several secondary technical and training colleges and the University of Science and Technology, the then UST. Then came the National Redemption Council, which had overthrown the K.A. Busia's Progress Party regime, we are told, and it was clear. The National Redemption Council gave a military twist to the reforms which had already been earmarked on the advice of the Jobo Committee, which brought forth the Ghana Education Service, if you remember, originally called the Ghana Teaching Service, with some experimental junior secondary schools, established some specialist training colleges to teach at the junior secondary school level. And then the establishment of the National Academy of Music, which was intended to train teachers for the various performing arts, music, dance, and drama. When the Provisional National Defense Council, PNDC, under Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings took over the reins of the country in a coup d'etat in 1981, the government embarked upon a number of sectorial and structural adjustment programs, of which education was key. Evans Anfo, who had earlier on started to initiate some changes in the education sector under Dr. Hila Leman, was still available to assist the PNDC regime to do so. Thus, the entire education system witnessed massive reforms with the conversion of the then middle schools to junior secondary schools in 1987. The introduction of the senior secondary school, now senior high, in 1991, and thereafter, the extension of the duration of University of Education from 3 to 4 years. By this time, national debates on return to constitutional rule were almost concluded, and the Constituent Assembly that was drafting the Constitution for the nation was finalizing their document. In 1992, the draft Constitution of the Fourth Republic was subjected to national referendum, and it received an overwhelming endorsement, paving way for the ban on political activities to be lifted. The Ghanaian public was thrown into a mix of state, panic, and euphoria as the political parties launched their various campaigns, with each presidential candidate hopeful of becoming the first president of the Fourth Republic of Ghana. Thankfully, this did not distract the attention of the PNDC. You will recall the University Rationalization Committee set up by the PNDC government for reforms at the tertiary level, and which had recommended the establishment of regional colleges of applied arts and sciences and technology, known as RECAST. At the heat of the political contest, the higher education family was greeted with a set of twins. First was the University for Development Studies, which was set up to invest in research, drive the development agenda of the country, and then the University College of Education of Winneba, which was to train tutors for the envisaged Regional College of Applied Arts and Sciences, the RECAST. And this is how the then University College of Education came into being. Ladies and gentlemen, where are we now as a university? From the beginning of the fourth quarter of 1992, the city of Winneba and surrounding areas started to celebrate both the birth and outdooring of a new baby. UCEW, life in the city turned different. Shop and business owners, especially landlords and estate developers, began to smile, and commercial drivers extended their working hours deep into the night. At the same time, the people of Ajumako and Mampoakwapim were in tears, feeling deserted as they, with sorrow, had to bid farewell to their long-standing friends and family. Well, it is said that the population of single parents, especially among women, rose sharply in these towns. But Winneba was experiencing exciting challenges. There were fewer places for the number of students who had arrived, thanks to their sacrifices of those old men and women. The desire for a university degree could not be compromised. They defied all comforts, invaded every available space. Storerooms and kitchenettes were turned into dormitories, and students were seen carrying mattresses out of the classrooms at dawn. Childbirth did not prevent the nursing mothers. The cry of babies, especially at night, kept the security staff awake. On the corridors of the various classrooms and lecture halls were seen grandmothers and teenage girls carrying babies waiting to suck their mother's breasts. More or less, one admission letter extended to the entire family. And in fact, the three campuses in Winneba, ATTC, National Academy of Music, and STC became townships on their own, with a population of all ages, including the yet to be born. And since then, 1992, Winneba has witnessed a steady growth and development in all spheres of life, and UEW has also continued to increase in size and population. The chairman, indeed, we have grown from 2,000 or 3,000 students to more than 50,000 students. From a few hundreds of staff, we now have about 2,000. We started with one professor, but have flourished into more than 40, including full professors. Our students were exclusively old persons. Now, we have a mixed age of students and predominantly younger ones, and same can be said for staff. We have grown from a few buildings to what you see now. This side was a bush. UEW has upgraded from assembly halls to auditorium. And from just around 10 computers to close to 2,000 computers and a very robust IT system, which is perhaps the best in the country. In 1992, we had one local partner, but now there are more than 20 local and international partnerships and linkages. From exclusively undergraduate programs, the university now hosts more than 70 postgraduate programs, including doctoral degrees. We started with one distance learning center at Winneba, but we are now all over the country with around 40 centers. Since our birth, we have churned out close to 200,000 competent graduates, including more than 500 foreign students. We are now recognized as a preeminent teacher education university in Ghana and West Africa. And we are now able to attract academically talented students to UEW. Our participation in international research conferences has increased, and we have moved away from pamphlets to publications in high-impact journals. In fact, our reputation for excellence has grown rapidly. Mr. Chairman, I want to leave the rest for the Vice Chancellor. Otherwise, you will have nothing to report in the graduation. So I'll end that right here. Now I turn to what I call the unwritten Memorandum of Understanding. By 1991, A firm commitment to start the university college had been made by government, and we only had to prepare for a smooth takeoff. In connection with the PNDC Law 322, the ministry, together with the University Rationalization Committee, organized intensive consultations, debates, and workshops among the various stakeholders, especially the constituent institutions. UCC has to be remembered. You want to see the constituent institutions? They are there for you to see. UCC has to be remembered for the amazing support and enthusiasm they demonstrated. Obviously, UCC was excited for being pregnant with their first and only child. Not only that, maybe also the birth of the University College of Education was to become a blessing, a justifiable or a rather a lucky opportunity for them to fulfill their long secret dream of expanding and veering off their original mandate into areas such as medicine and law, for which they are rapidly gaining fame. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, throughout the debate, nothing was as important to people as the name of the yet-to-be-born University College. The Futu community had been monitoring the development with keen interest and passion. They wanted to be the people to choose the name, advocating for University College of Winneba. Among other views such as UCC University College and National University College for Teaching. At the same time, the other constituent colleges were worried about the potential and complete loss of their identities. Some attempted various combinations of letters selected from the existing names, but you can imagine how laborious this was. Although there was some perceived apathy as a result of fear of loss of power and influence and opportunities, especially among the top management of the constituent institutions, the joy of being part of the university seemed to override all the other concerns. There was anxiety and euphoria among the younger staff, and especially those who felt they possessed the basic qualifications for university teaching. Before we even started the college, we had agreed to design the university colors by selecting and combining dominant colors and common colors to all the constituent institutions. In doing this, we were guided by one desire, to use only colors which depicted victory, hope, and joy. The name continued to be debated. The most forceful argument came from the Ministry of Education. You will remember Dr. Awuku, late, who was leading the entire project. May his soul continue to rest in peace. He led the ministry to argue that it had been government's plan to build various university colleges across the country, and that the one at Winneba was only the first step. Therefore, we could call this one of Winneba, to be followed by others, such as University College of Education of Okwe, University College of Education of Kumasi, University College of Education of Tamale, and perhaps University College of Education of Vedeme. And this was the argument which seemed to have closed the debate at that time. Based upon this understanding, all the other 4 colleges were to relocate to join the existing 3 at Winneba to start the 1992-93 academic year. Surprisingly, these developments and the understanding did not seem to satisfy our colleagues at the then Advanced Technical Teachers College, Kumasi, who had demonstrated some skepticism about joining the amalgamation. Rather, they decided to use this agreement to push for 2 options. One was the establishment of 2 separate university colleges at Winneba and Kumasi simultaneously, arguing they had all the staff and necessary facilities and warned the Ministry of Education that joining Winneba had the potential of subverting the TVET agenda of the nation. This option was not acceptable at the time. The push was just to get the university college started. The second option was to have the patience and wait for a few years to get their own TVET university college. Even without any firm assurance from the ministry, Kumasi, with Mampong supporting, had some hope and decided to wait for their turn. When in 1992, all the others had moved to Winneba, Kumasi and their brothers and sisters in Mampong made little or no effort to join their colleagues. They were only compelled in 1996 when the management at Winneba decided to frustrate them, stifle them with funds by going to the ministry to collect all the funds meant for these campuses to Winneba, and insisted you either stay in Kumasi without funds or you come to Winneba. Then immediately the agenda to bring them Kumasi and Mampong began. And this started with the technical skill department, which was moved from Kumasi to the central campus at Winneba, where the Department of Music is housed. You will recall the grumbling voices that accompanied the rather gloomy faces of our new neighbors, the Kumasi people, we used to call them. Oh, the Kumasi people. However, it wasn't long. We ourselves were frustrated. Music education was uncomfortable as they had taken part of the little spaces allocated to them. The entire university became frustrated. There was not enough place for them with their machines. How to transport the technical equipment and laboratory equipment from Kumasi was another problem. We had to abandon this idea and decided to keep Kumasi and Mampong rather as campuses. We didn't do same for Ajumako, so we had to fight Ajumako, we had to fight hard to get Ajumako back afterwards, and it was costly getting them back. Soon afterwards, we decided to make the then University College of Education, Winneba, one university college with 3 campuses, and that all 3 campuses would be given prominence on equal basis and be treated as semi-autonomous colleges. All these were to assure Kumasi and Mampong of their identities, even as they joined the UCU family. To strengthen this oneness, the governing council at the time decided to hold their meetings on all 3 campuses on rotational basis, to the admiration of Kumasi and Mampong campuses. Now let's see how we move from university college to a university status. It was at the 2002 graduation ceremony at Winneba when the then Vice President, His Excellency Aliu Mahama, announced government approval for our request for autonomous university status. May his soul rest in peace. But it was not until 2004 that the enabling law, the University of Education Winneba Act 2004, Act 672, was finally passed to give effect to our aspirations. Autonomy came to us by one touch. Unlike UCC, who had to go for a second attempt writing a referral. Of course, ours was not to be a surprise. Thanks to both the then principal, Professor Jofus Anamwa Mensah, and Registrar, Mr. J.N. Aite, who had been staff of UCC before. Based upon their association and friendship, UCC was generous enough to teach us the tricks which would help us to avoid the mistake UCC had made in their first attempt. While government was considering our request and hopeful of success, we had begun to think of an appropriate name. Interestingly, as in the case of the University College, this became even a hotter subject of contest. When proposals were invited, there were no less than 30 names tabled by various interested groups and individuals. National University for the Studies of Education, Pedagogic University, Pedagogic University of Winneba was one of the most interesting ones. University of Pedagogical Sciences. You can see. Winneba University for Education. University of Winneba. These two names were at the forefront on the lips of the Futu people. Now, let's see how we became a multi-campus university. In 2004, it became clear that government had abandoned the idea of establishing the recast. And in Section 5 of the Enabling Law at 672, the real future of the university was defined as follows, and I quote, "The university shall, without limit to the power of the University Council, establish other campuses. Have a campus at Kumasi to be known as College of Technical Education, Kumasi, and a campus at Ashanti Mampong to be known as the College of Agricultural Education, Mampong, Ashanti." As can be noticed, Section 5 of the Act was not only to formalize Kumasi and Mampong campuses as part of UEW and block the aspiration for their own separate university colleges, but was also to empower UEW to spread across the country. It can be argued that our success in maintaining Kumasi and Mampong as campuses of the then UCEW was what informed Act 672 of 2004. In fact, if we had succeeded in bringing all the other 4 constituent colleges to Winneba, it is most probable that UEW would not have been established as a multi-campus university. We can now understand the Futu Traditional Council when they argued in 2002 that UCEW was never designed, perceived, or envisaged to be a multi-campus university, according to the PNDC law. And this was quoted to support their request to government for the emerging institution to be called University of Winneba, to identify with the locality in the same way as the University of Cape Coast. Based upon this view, the Traditional Council further warned that, and I quote, "Even if circumstances should dictate the maintenance of a campus elsewhere, that campus should be called University of Winneba, ex-campus. And that on no account should the campus be considered to be of the same level and status as the mother university, University of Winneba." What did this mean at the time? Does the Futu Traditional Council still hold on to that position? To what extent has this view influenced the university's strategic direction? There is now an interplay of 2 issues. On one hand, it can be said that the people of Winneba see UEW as their university. The university is Winneba, and Winneba is the university, and UEW is the University of Winneba. On the other hand, for Kumasi in particular and Mampong, the terms of the unwritten memorandum of understanding remain to be fulfilled. We are waiting for our own university college or university. Should it have taken us by surprise when in 2005, barely 1 year after we had become an autonomous university, that the Asante Hene, Nana Otumfo Osetutu II, made an appeal at the first graduation ceremony ever to be held at Kumasi campus to the Vice Chancellor to help Coltech, the University of Education Winneba Kumasi campus, to become a university on its own. Why were we taken by surprise? The Asante Hene had donated 25 million cedis towards the refurbishment of the library at the Mampong campus. His call for autonomous status for Coltech became a worry to the Vice Chancellor and top management of the university, and indeed, all of us at Winneba campus at the time. All of a sudden, the dynamics of managing a multi-campus system and the plans to make the campuses semi-autonomous began to witness some review from top management of the university. From then on, we in Winneba began to watch Kumasi carefully and with suspicion. Began to emerge between the main campus at Winneba on one hand and Kumasi and Mampong on the other. Watch them. To a large extent, this suspicion would appear to have influenced, controlled, and mediated our entire administrative management and governance styles, especially with regard to the campuses. Let me turn to the spirit of the law. Chairman of Council and Chairman for this occasion, I am not attempting to be a lawyer. There is a spirit behind every law, and in particular, every national law. And usually, this spirit is determined by government policies and national aspirations. I argue that the spirit behind each law looks far into the future, and in the words of the law, the future of the nation can be predicted. In this regard, I would argue again that the spirit behind Act 672, which makes us a multi-campus university, was to help the government and nation to attain the objective of establishing University College of Education across the country. Furthermore, it was the hope of government that these university colleges would be established or created and mentored by UAW to become strong pillars in teacher education and, where possible, become autonomous universities in the same way as UCC has mentored us to become what we are today. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all the things we see around us, the infrastructure, human capital, and other employment opportunities, and in fact, everything we boast of today have been made possible because of UCC. UCC is proud of nurturing their baby, the University College of Education of Winneba, to a full university status, which is now rubbing shoulders with them, especially in teacher education. In spite of this, UCC has not been weakened. Rather, it has become bigger and stronger. The recent government policy to make colleges of education campuses of existing universities is providing yet another opportunity for us to face the challenge of opening new campuses. And this will better position us to take control of the colleges of education and absorb them into our fold as campuses. We cannot wait any longer. This is our time. Of course, UCC has always appeared jealous of us because we have the upper hand, the backing of the law. The law to establish university campuses for teacher education is our preserve, and we cannot and must not give it up. As we celebrate 25 years or so of our birth, we should now be seen to be supporting our campuses at Jumaku, Kumasi, and Mampong to expand more rapidly. But we must recognize our hindrance. In spite of the Act recognizing campuses of the university, our statutes assume that UAW is a unitary system, and this is a mistake. Arguably, it has tended to make us to be practicing a rather centralized management and administrative system for the entire university. We need to take a critical look at our statutes once again and review our governance system, which is influenced by current trends in university management in Ghana and the world over. The challenge is to use this rare privilege of state authority to become a truly multi-campus teacher education university in Ghana and a model in the sub-region. They are being overtaken by recent events and recent decisions by the Ministry of Education. And now turn to some national policies which I think we should keep in mind. I have already said that UAW was born out of the revolutionary educational reforms in 1987. As we take stock of our journey so far, we are doing this within yet another period of progressive reforms, especially in teacher education. We at UAW have been noted for our contributions towards the formulation of innovative policies in the education sector. Professor Jofus Anamwa Mensah and others have become consultants in this business of educational reforms. In this regard, this Jubilee celebration provides a unique opportunity for us to assess our contributions as an institution to the various educational steps that have taken place so far. Here is the time for us to position ourselves so that the government of Ghana takes us as their sole consultants, and to say, when they are confronted at any time with any policy challenges, they should say, go to UAW, or say, call us UAW. We do not have to look on for others to be talking on critical educational issues which we should have been doing or leading to do perhaps even better. UAW needs to become more visible by making a penetrating influence on the academic community and become notable. My proposal is that as part of the celebrations, we should engage in further discourse on these within the context of global trends, supported by literature arising out of empirical research, so that we can make informed views available for the benefit of government as well as policy implementers. The first is the Anamwa Mensah report. I'm saying this not because I was part of it and our Vice Chancellor was the chair, but also because I find this report as the most comprehensive committee report ever to be produced on education in Ghana. And a glance at it demonstrates that attempts made by the committee to tackle serious deficiencies in the public education system, ranging from preschool, primary and basic, secondary and TVET, teacher education, tertiary management, and so on. It would appear that we are far from exhausting the fine proposals outlined in this report. Yet, in my opinion, if we take systematic steps to address the recommendations of the Anamwa Mensah report fully, the bedrock of the system would be stronger and be able to absorb any new ideas and make education system relatively stable and progressive. Attend to the free SHS as the bolder decision ever taken by any president and government of our time. While some critics have been more concerned about whether it was possible, others have been scared of cost, funding, and financial sustainability. But the question remains, if education of the citizens cannot be and is not the primary responsibility of the state, then what is? We all know that investment in the education is a right and must be the priority for any government. It is time to concentrate on the impact on the quality of the minds of the future leaders and our desire to promote strong technologically literate community. In 2009, the debate on the duration of the SHS program reopened. While the discourse was still ongoing, the NDC government reversed the decision of the NPP administration, who had changed the duration from 3 to 4 years. In my opinion, this decision did not reflect the anticipated outcome of the ongoing debates. You will recall that the SHS system was launched as part of the 1987 reforms. Although government argued they were implementing the report of the Jobo Committee, it decided on 3 years rather than the 4 years originally recommended by the Jobo report. With the introduction of free SHS, there seems to be some quiet on the issue of duration because of fear of cost, perhaps. But those who still believe in the 4-year SHS are not satisfied and convinced that Ghana has made a good decision on this subject. What is the rush in pushing our young generation out of school education only to form unemployed graduate associations? To address the seemingly failure of the education system, we have had to create various ways of keeping the school leavers occupied. National Youth Employment, GIDA, and of late NAPCO. to cater for the unemployed. Can be argued that it is the investment we should have made in education, which we failed to do at the right time, that we are now spending to address youth unemployment at a rather greater cost today. The debate on duration of SHS appeared to have been closed rather abruptly, and it is important that it is reopened. In this regard, the structure, content, and duration outlined by the Jogo Committee still remains distinctive, and even more striking as the duration of university education has also come under some interrogation. You will also recall that university education in Ghana had been 3 years until 1994-95 academic year or thereabout, and this was as a result of the 3-year senior high school program. Throughout, both school heads and teachers have expressed concern about the mismatch between the content of the various syllabuses on one hand and the 3-year duration on the other, and argued that it would be difficult to complete the syllabus within the stipulated time to enable the students to perform satisfactorily in the final examinations. Somehow, both parents and parent-teacher associations bought into the idea and encouraged teachers to work beyond the official timetable to provide extra teaching for their awards. Since then, SHS has witnessed a more formalized and an entrenched organization of extra classes, even during school term time, for additional fees. Extra classes, yes, extra classes had been there in the schools to help academically weak students. Now, extra classes have become a business, a means of extra money. And students are kept in classroom for the whole day at the expense of cultivation of self-independent and continuous learning skills and habits. It is now the training in memory and recall of specific facts to be produced in an examination certificate for certificate purposes. Because our school system has become so examination-oriented, the practice of extra classes has extended to the junior high school, even primary schools, and extending gradually to preschool levels. Yet, we continue to demand of the system to turn out graduates who are independent and critical thinkers. If the school system cannot provide the opportunity for people to cultivate the habit of independent and self-study, how do we expect them to become critical thinkers in the future? I argue that we return to the wisdom of the Jogo Committee report. And this time, the discourse should be more embracing, centering on all the levels, in particular junior high school, senior high school, and all post-secondary programs, including the university. Such debates should be given critical attention to the intermingling issues in the Jogo Committee report and the Anamwa Minister report, together with global trends. Our ultimate goal should be to make sure we have made the right investment in education of our younger generation in order to make them competitive in the global job environment. We now need the intervention of experts in teaching and learning, and this definitely is within the mandate of UEW. We must begin to make our voices heard, voices that are grounded in empirical reality. Attend to the famous TVET, Technical and Vocational Education and Training. TVET is a subject which has remained topical since the colonial times. We have spent all the past years advocating, but doing little in that regard. In recent years, Ghana has taken the issue of TVET more seriously than ever before, and based also on the realization that the current national education policy objectives, the production of quality human capital for industry and commerce, depend largely on the availability of both highly quality teachers and high quality teacher educators in TVET. So everybody is waving the program to catch air. I think we should get some technology that can also be alternative to air conditioning in terms of this. Because we build our infrastructure solely dependent on what we call modern technology. A nation that makes is the nation that grows. A nation that produces is the nation that develops. Realizing that it is by doing and making that we can grow as a nation, the government has launched the One District, One Factory program. The purpose is to enable us to make and do, as well as produce makers and doers. Yet, the program is struggling simply because we do not have enough makers and doers on the ground. We are waiting and looking for foreigners and foreign resources and investors to do the things for us, to do the things that are around us. All what we hear of is that some investors are coming from Germany, China, Japan, and so on. They are bringing some machines and equipment for this or that. No, wait a minute. Did I say we do not have makers and doers? I'm sorry. In fact, we do have some famous makers and doers and producers locally, including medical doctors. All Ghanaians have been diagnosed with PAS, cocoa, and the men are sexually weak. So, there are producers of cocoa treatment medicines and sex enhancement products in almost every village. Think more. Think also of the more than 100 varieties of akpeteshie, alombo, and adonko bitters, joy daddy, pokeke, and the like. But we do not have makers, unfortunately, and doers in the manufacturing sector, which has been identified as the major means of driving and turning around the economy of this country. In fact, to make the One District, One Factory program successful, we should begin by training and producing the doers and makers and teachers of trainers of doers and makers. If each district can boast of at least 10 makers and doers and trainers of makers who are able to use rural wisdom, indigenous resources, and local materials, combined with current global entrepreneurial skills to make and do, we shall become an enviable nation within the sub-region. Looking into the future, we must begin to explore new methods of training makers and doers. Music and creative arts, on one hand, seem different from science and technology. And in fact, we treat them differently in the school curriculum at all levels. Yet, music in particular and technology are the same in essence. Technology is about thinking, designing, and making. Music is about thinking, designing, and making. Music thus can be used as a means for training of thinkers, designers, and makers. Many decades ago, I was introduced to the competency-based training approach, which my teachers adopted in my musical skills training and development, and taught me how to use same to teach my students. It has only now recently become a hot teaching and assessment methodology in TVET in Ghana and has become mandatory by law for our technical universities. Indeed, it is possible to inculcate in children the interest in TVET concepts and skills right from the primary school level. In this regard, a careful integration of concepts of TVET into various parts of the primary school curriculum targeting the creative arts, especially music, will be helpful. If this is properly done, children will grow with an interest in TVET, and this will reduce the current stress and cost associated with advocacy for interest in TVET among school leavers. Music does deserve greater prominence in the education system than it currently receives. The University of Education, Winneba, has the largest music department in higher education in Ghana. As part of our mandate, we have to explore the symbiotic relationship of these two areas and examine how training in music can impact, support, and enhance training of makers and doers for industry and commerce. We must lead the enrichment of the curriculum of teacher education in this regard and ensure some innovative approaches to introduce pupils to the various trade areas right from school. The conversion of polytechnics into technical universities has come with some challenges. The polytechnics have long been responsible for the production of middle-level manpower labor. Additionally, in the next year or two, there will be a large number of senior high school leavers seeking further education. Yes, it is clear that not every SHS and technical school leaver will want to have a degree or must have a degree. How can we say everybody leaving SHS must have a degree? It's not possible. In this regard, the technical universities need to customize the existing HND programs, as well as introduce more innovative certificate and diploma courses of study. This will not only strengthen the capacity of the middle-level manpower development for the country, but also will help to absorb the majority of school leavers who might not be able to enroll into the degree programs. So there is a growing need for the training of professional teachers and expert instructors, scholars, and researchers in TVET. We are looking forward to the establishment of a special teacher education university for TVET, mainly responsible for the preparation of trainers and researchers in the various trade areas. Happily, as we are all aware, a new baby, National University for Skills and Entrepreneurial Development, will soon be our door. UAW must work closely with the government and the Ministry of Education to ensure that this move becomes a success. This certainly will be our firstborn. We cannot wait after we have carried the pregnancy for 25 years or more for another parent to come from somewhere to take ownership of our baby. I turn to teacher education, which is the final point in the list of policies. We are all aware of the public concern about the quality of our school graduates. But the quality of our school graduates must be linked with the quality of teacher training and education. Have we thought about the impact of the various teacher training institutions? I think the teacher training institutions should take some blame. This is the time to prove to the nation that we have played our role effectively, and only this will empower us to demand accountability from the other stakeholders. The mode of teacher education in Ghana definitely needs further interrogation. It can be said that the examination-oriented approach associated with pre-tertiary schools is linked with that of the entire teacher education system in Ghana. It would appear that concentration has shifted away from the notion of training to that of merely passing end-of-semester examinations. Even as we complain about poor teacher quality, we seem to take for granted the quality of teacher education programs and teacher educators. For a long time, the main institutions involved in teacher education are the colleges of education, all of which are supervised and certified by the University of Cape Coast. UCC brought forth UAW. As a result, one can argue that the teacher education approach in Ghana is one way, the UCC way. I think there is need to take a critical look at this single-track approach. There certainly is one target, the production of quality teachers, but clearly there cannot be just one way. The challenge now is to make a radical shift from the UCC mediated model, and we can only do this if we invest more in research. UAW, a teacher education university, cannot sit unconcerned. We need to wake up to the call. The recent government policy, which has shared the colleges of education among 5 universities offering education, namely UDS, Legon, KNUST, UCC, and ULW, appears to be rather radical. Legon, KNUST, and UDS, I doubt their experience in initial teacher training can hardly be attested to. Yet, all of a sudden, they are involved. What has happened? I would argue that this new policy will lead to the diversification of the approaches and models in initial teacher preparation. Increased competition, as each of the universities will now begin to aspire to break new grounds. At the end, we shall be witnessing different teachers, each exhibiting distinctive characteristics and attributes associated with the respective affiliated university. What are our attributes, UAW? Ladies and gentlemen, so far, I have demonstrated some of the dynamics that brought the University of Education into existence and some of the issues that have guided or directed our development so far, and in particular, our administrative and governance styles. What is the way forward? Chairman, with the rapid expansion in the education sector and the government policy of getting every child into school through SHS, there certainly will be a demand for more quality teachers. At the moment, our campuses cover only 2 out of the 16 regions in Ghana. I think you should calculate the percentage of coverage. 2 over 16, what's the percentage? That is where we are. Yet by law, our presence and impact must be felt across the country. How do we do this? In fulfillment of the mandate, we should develop a strategic plan which will see to the establishment of new campuses across the country and ensure that all the campuses have equal status. They are self-accounting, self-reliant, independent, and semi-autonomous. If you take a critical look at the law, let us see how our current structure is like. If only we want to tackle the law truthfully and to implement the multi-campus, the law says each campus shall have a principal. So in my opinion, in effect, with the current 4 campuses, Winneba, Kumasi, Mampong, and Ajumako, we need 4 principals. This means that we will have 4 universities in one. Each university is headed by a principal. Then the entire 4 of them constitute one university to be headed by the vice chancellor. Therefore, the vice chancellor, who is based here at Winneba, the headquarters, should in fact be seen as carrying 2 positions in one. Principal of Winneba campus and vice chancellor of the university. Reflect upon this, and then you will understand the dynamics. Let us undertake a critical assessment of our distance learning centers. Perhaps as a start, it might be easier to convert 1 or 2 of them into campuses. Let's engage our stakeholders into consultative discussions about the way forward, even as the campuses have already been distributed. Educational institutions, especially in higher education, should be ahead of the government. We should not allow the government to be ahead of us. Educational institutions, higher education institutions, feed government with policy advice all over the world. I am of the strong conviction that UAW should strategically position Kumasi and Mampong campuses to support KNUST and UMAT and the technical universities to lead the national agenda on industrialization through TVET. We stand a better chance in leading this because we use practical theory approach in teaching our students with emphasis on competency-based training. We teach our students to learn by doing. I am looking forward to that full university responsible for technology, agriculture, and industrialization, being mentored by UEW Kumasi in Kumasi and Mampong in the very near future. As I have said earlier, this celebration provides us an opportunity to plan how to invest more in research. Let us set up research teams to undertake scientific investigation into the various educational initiatives and make the results available for the use and benefit of the Ministry of Education and Government. There's need to set up a special team on teacher education, which will undertake a study of the various teacher education curriculum and modes of teacher preparation across the world to inform what is going on in Ghana. It is now time for us to develop a diversified and unique curriculum which will lead to a more effective approach to teacher education in Ghana. And this should be the UEW brand. UEW brand. This is the time to develop it. Investment and in promoting research in the university should not be taken for granted. We can only build our fame through departments and faculties. One man, one woman, one department, one faculty can attain fame and reputation for the university. Let us empower selected departments and faculties to undertake groundbreaking research and publications, discoveries and cutting-edge inventions. This will help us become a wellspring of nationally and internationally known researchers, scholars, and master teachers whose work will advance knowledge and skills and who will spearhead innovations in teaching and learning in Ghana. Chairman, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I am almost at the end of my address, and I'm preparing to give the closing message. At this juncture, I would kindly appeal to the Department of Music to lead us all to sing the University of Education Winneba anthem, and all of us will sing it, reflecting on the words. Do these things not because they are easy, but because they are hard. We choose to go to the moon and do other things not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one we are willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win, and the others too. At that time, the Soviet Union was America's only competitor in the space race. After that speech, and through perseverance and rededication to the cause, America successfully landed a man on the moon in July 1969 under President Ronald Reagan in Apollo 11. Indeed, we have known right from the beginning that the competition will not be hard, and that is why our anthem says, we shall fight. Fight on and succeed. How can victory become ours if we turn the guns meant to shoot our enemies onto ourselves? My entire life, together with that of my family, has been intrinsically linked with UAW. The registrar has said it. UAW evokes an emotional feeling in me and my contemporaries, some of whom are here today. We fought hard. We worked tirelessly to pass on to the next generation this great beacon of teacher training university. As forefathers, nothing brings us the most gratification than to see the fruits of our labor and toils succeed. Yet we are at the crossroads. Our legacy is about to be destroyed. Our toils and labor are about to be in vain. Shall we look on for this to happen? This 25th anniversary celebration should be treated as a defining moment, a time to pursue the next chapter, not because it is easy, but because it is hard. I want to appeal and charge every one of us here, the students' body, teaching and non-teaching staff, the university administration and management, partners, the Winneba community, and the Winneba Township, chiefs and elders, opinion leaders of Winneba Township, and all stakeholders who have provided hope to this great university, that we have an urgent task to accomplish. It is a collective one. It is hard, but inescapable. We must all resolve today and now not to allow such reckless moments ever again in the life of UAW. We must resolve collectively and solemnly so now to face the task of reconciling the perceived aggrieved camps, the task of forging unity, and the task of rekindling the zeal, enthusiasm, and the friendship with which UAW was founded. We all owe Ghana a moral duty and a legal obligation to support UAW to succeed in delivering on our mandate. That out of these testing times, we will rededicate ourselves to the goal of building a beacon of teacher education and training university with the pride and reputation that will be unmatched across the world. I wish you, the Governing Council, the Vice Chancellor and management, staff and students, and indeed the entire university community and all our well-wishers, God's guidance in all our endeavors to make UAW greater, more united, and stronger. Long live UAW, long live Ghana. Thank you.